Hi everyone, good afternoon to you all, and I welcome you to my YouTube channel. My name is Isaac Eskin, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Now, in today's lesson, we want to tackle some practice problems in economics, specifically demand and supply, equilibrium analysis. So let's look at the question on the screen and attempt it. So the question says that the Guinness World Company operates in the premium stout beer market in Ireland. Market research has determined the following demand and supply functions for Guinness stout, and they are in thousands of barrels per month. So we are given the demand function as QD equals 2,400 minus 15p. And we are also given the supply function as QS, Q subscript S, to be equal to 600 plus 25p, where P is the price per barrel in euros and Q is the quantity in thousands of barrels. Now, part A says we are to calculate the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity in this market. Alright, so we are given the quantity demanded as 2,400 minus 15p, and then we are also given the quantity supplied, the function as 600 plus 25p. Now, we know from the demand and supply analysis that anytime there is equilibrium, then the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied. So this is when equilibrium is established. So the only thing we need to do is equate the two functions, that is the demand function and the supply function. So we are going to have 2,400 minus 15p, which is the demand function, being equal to 600 plus 25p, and that is the supply function. So here there is not much to do. The only thing you have to do is to group like terms and then solve for p. Definitely we are looking at the equilibrium price. Alright, so I'm going to have 2,400. I will move this 600 to the other side. Since it is positive, it becomes negative 600, and that is equal to 25p. Now I'm going to move this 15p, this minus 15p, to the other side. It is going to cross the equal to sign and becomes plus 15p. And what is 2,400 minus 600? That will give us 1,800, which is equal to, now what is 25 plus 15? And that is 40p. Now we have this. The goal is to find the value of p. So we divide here by 40. We divide this side also by 40. Now we know that 40 cancels this 40. And clearly we are to find 1,800 divided by 40. And that is going to give us 45. So what it means is that we have been able to find the equilibrium price. So the equilibrium price, which is P star, is equal to 45. Now the question says we should find the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity in this market. So now that we know the equilibrium price, the only thing we need to do is to substitute the value of P, which is equal to 45, in any of the two functions we have. We can put it in the quantity demanded function, or we can put it in the quantity supplied function. So I'm going to go ahead and put the value of P into the quantity supplied function. So we know that the quantity supplied is 600 plus 25p. So substituting the value of p, we have 25 multiplying 45. And this is going to be 600 plus, now let me use my calculator. What is 25 times 45? That is 1,125. And what is 600 plus 1,125? That is going to be 1,725. So now the quantity demanded is giving us, the equilibrium quantity is giving us 1,725 units. So basically this is how you find or you determine the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. You just need to equate the two functions, solve for P, and then substitute P in any of the functions to get your equilibrium quantity. Alright, let's move on to the next part. So in this part, that is the part B. Let me zoom in so that we can have a good view of what is happening. a minute. I want to, yes. So this is the part B. Alright. The part B says that the Irish government decides to impose an excise tax of 20 per barrel on producers, write the new supply function, and calculate the new equilibrium price paid by consumers, the price paid received by producers, and the new equilibrium quantity. And also, what is the tax revenue collected by the government? Whoa, this is a tight one. Alright, now what we need to know is that whenever they impose an excise tax, now note that this excise tax is imposed on the producers. Now, what it means is that the price received by the producers will be the price paid by the consumers minus the tax, which is what? 20. And of course, since this is imposed on the producers, their supply function is going to shift, is going to change, right? We know that the original supply function was given as 600 plus 25p. Now, P here is the price paid by the consumers, the producers, received by the producers, sorry. So what we are going to do is that we are going to substitute this, that is P minus 20, to wherever we see P. And so we are going to have 600 plus 25, then we open a bracket, P minus 20, right? Because the price that the producers are going to receive will be that of the consumers minus the tax. That is why we substitute this into wherever we see P. Alright, so let's break this down. So this is 600 plus 25p minus, now what is 25 times 20? Let me use my calculator, and that is going to be 500. Let's group like terms. So we have 600 minus 500 plus 25p. And that is equal to 100 plus 25p. So our new supply curve or supply function is giving us 100 plus 25p. Now, what are we going to find? We are supposed to write the new supply function, which is what we have done. And the next thing is to calculate the new equilibrium price paid by the consumers, and then the price received by the producers, and the new equilibrium quantity. Alright, let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so let me create a space here to do that actually. Now, you remember I told you that the equilibrium price and quantity is the price and quantity where the two functions intersect. In other words, we need to equate the two functions. Don't forget that now we have a new supply curve. So we are not going to use the original supply curve, right? So now for the quantity demanded curve, it remains the same. Nothing happens to it. So we have 2,400 minus 15p. But we are going to use our new supply curve, which is 100 plus 25p. For equilibrium to be established, the quantity demanded, or original quantity demanded function should be equal to the new quantity supplied function. So we are going to have 2,400 minus 15p being equal to 100 plus 25p. And here too, we are going to do some change of subject. I'm going to move this 100 to the other side. So we are going to have 2,400 minus 100. It is positive here, so when it crosses the equal to sign, it becomes negative. Then we are going to have on the right hand side 25p. This is negative, so when it crosses, it becomes plus 15p. Now, what is 2,400 minus 100? Let me use my calculator, and that is going to be 2,300 equals, what is 25 plus 15? That will be 40p. Now here too, we would want to find the value of p. So we divide here by 40. We divide here too by 40. Now this counts that, and then we are left with p equals. Now what is 2,300 divided by 40? And that is 57.5. Right. So now this is the price that the consumers are going to pay. In fact, this is the new equilibrium price that the consumers are going to pay. Let me move my sheet so that we can get enough space. So this is the new equilibrium price that the consumers are going to pay, right? Now, for what the producers are going to receive. You remember when I started, I told you that what the producers receive, the price that they receive is equal to the price paid by the consumers minus the tax, which was 20, right? So what the producers are going to receive, that is the piece as going to receive, that will be equal to, now this time around, the equilibrium price being paid by the consumers is 57.5, right? Then minus 20. And what is, let me use my calculator here. It involves some decimals. So 57.5 minus 20 is just going to be 37.5. So the producers are going to receive this price, 37.5. That is the price that they are going to receive. Then the next thing is we need to find the new equilibrium or quantity. That is what we are going to calculate. We need to find the new equilibrium quantity. Alright, so what we are going to do is that we are going to substitute the equilibrium price that we found, which is the 57.5, into any of the functions that we have. So the quantity, let me put that in there. The other one I placed it in the supply function. This time around I'm going to put it in the demand function. Alright, we know that the demand function is 2,400 minus 15p. Now 2,400 minus 15, the p is what we found, the equilibrium price, the new equilibrium price, which is 57.5. So solving this equation, we have 2,400 minus, now what is 15 times 57.5? And that is 862.5. And the question becomes, what is 2,400 minus 862.5? Let me use the calculator quickly to find that value. So minus 862.5. And that is going to be 1,537.5. So so this is it. Let me put the information here. The new equilibrium price paid by the consumers is 57.5. The new equilibrium price received by the producers is 37.5. Then the new equilibrium quantity is 1,537.5. So the next thing is to find the tax revenue. Let me go back to the question. Let me see what the question asked. Yeah, so the next thing is, what is the tax revenue collected by the government? Yeah, so that's very simple. To get the tax revenue, we know the tax that was imposed, right? We know that the tax imposed was, that was 20 euros. So the tax was 20 euros, something like that. Then, to find the tax revenue, the only thing we need to do is to multiply the amount, the tax amount, which is 20, with the equilibrium quantity, the new equilibrium quantity, which is 1,537.5. That is how to get the tax revenue. So let me use my calculator. 20 times 1,537.5. That is going to be 30,750 euros. So this will be the tax revenue. You just multiply the tax amount by the equilibrium quantity, the new equilibrium quantity, to be precise. Alright, let's look at the next part of the question. That is part C. Let me zoom in so that we can see. Alright, so this is the part C. The part C says that due to a successful global marketing campaign, consumer preferences shift, increasing demand by 400,000 barrels at every price level. Now write the new demand function and calculate the new equilibrium price and quantity, assuming the tax part from part B is still in effect. So what we are going to do is that now we need to get a new demand function because demand has increased by 400,000 barrels. And this is very simple. So we know that the original demand function was 2,400 minus 15p. So the only thing we need to do is add the new demand amount, which is 400. And what is 2,400 plus 400? That is 2,800 minus 15p. So this is the new demand function. Now, don't forget the question says we should write the new demand function and calculate the new equilibrium price and quantity, assuming, you need to take note of this part, assuming the tax from part B is still in effect. Now, when we had the tax in the part B, we got a new supply function, right? And our new supply function was, I think, 100 plus, let me go back and check very well. Let's check. Yes, our new supply curve or the function was 100 plus 25p. So we are going to have 100 plus 25p. So this is when the tax is in effect, is still in effect. And then this is our new demand curve. So for equilibrium to be established, we know that the new quantity demand curve or function should be equal to the new quantity supply function. Alright, so we have 2,800 minus 15p to be equal to 100 plus 25p. Right. So this, we just need to do some change of subject or group like term. So I'm going to move this 100 to the other side. So we are going to have 2,800 minus 100 equals 25p plus 15p. Alright, of course, here too, the goal is to find the value of p. What is 2,800 minus 100? That is 2,700 equals 40p. We need the value of p, so we divide here by 40, we divide the other side by 40. And this 40 cancels itself. So p is going to be 2,700 divided by 40, and that is 67.5. So this equilibrium, the new equilibrium price that we have found as a result of the increase in demand, is the price that the consumers are going to pay, right? So this is the price, the equilibrium price that the consumers are going to pay. So what the consumers are paying, that is the 67.5. So to get what the producers are receiving, the equilibrium price that the producers are going to receive, that is going to be the price being paid by the consumers minus the tax that is in effect. And what is 67.5 minus 20? That is 47.5. So producers are going to receive this price, and then consumers are going to pay this price. Then let's go ahead to find the new equilibrium quantity. So to get the new equilibrium quantity, we are going to substitute the equilibrium price in any of our functions, whether the new demand function or the new supply function. So let's go for the new supply function. We know that the supply function is 100 plus 25p. So substituting the value of p, we are going to have 25 times 67.5. Alright, so I'm going to use my calculator to find 25 times 67.5, and that is going to be 1,687.5. And what is 1,687.5 plus 100? That is going to be 1,787.5. So now, our new equilibrium price paid by the consumers, that is 67.5. Then our new equilibrium price received by the producers is 47.5. And then our new equilibrium quantity is 1,787.5 units. Alright, let's move on to the last part of the question, which is part D. And let's look at what part D is trying to say. Alright, so we have to calculate the price elasticity of demand at the original equilibrium price. Is demand elastic or inelastic at this point? Now, what does this imply for Guinea's pricing strategy? So we need to find the price elasticity of demand. If you remember the formula, that is change in quantity demanded over the change in price times P, that is the original price, over the original quantity. Now, in mathematics, whenever we are dealing with change, it's the same as finding the derivative of the demand function with respect to price, then times the original price of the quantity. Now, what is the original demand function? We were given the demand function as 2,400 minus 15p. So to differentiate this function with respect to p, we are just going to have minus 15. So the change in quantity demanded over change in price is negative 15. So let's put that into our formula. The price elasticity demand becomes the change in quantity demanded over change in price is negative 15 times. Now, what was the equilibrium price? Here we are using the equilibrium price and then the equilibrium quantity. So let's go back to look for the original equilibrium price and quantity that we found. Yes, so we found the equilibrium price to be 45 and the equilibrium quantity to be 1,725. So let's write it here. Our equilibrium price was 40, then 1,725. That was the equilibrium quantity, right? Let me cross check to be sure. Yes, 1,725. Alright, so here I'm going to use my calculator. What is 40 divided 1,725? That is 0.023188. And what is this decimal times minus 15? That is going to be minus 0.347. Right. Now, when we are dealing with price elasticity demand, we are looking at the absolute value, right? So I can put this in an absolute sign, and our answer becomes 0.3. Let me leave it to 2 decimal places, so 0.35. Now look at something. You can clearly see that the value 0.35 is less than 1, and whenever our price elasticity of demand is less than 1, we know that we have inelastic. Right, inelastic demand. We have what we call the inelastic. Oh, sorry about that. Alright, what does that imply? Because the question says, what does this imply for Guinness pricing strategy? Now, if you remember, we know that whenever we have inelastic demand, now a percentage change in the price will lead to a small or a smaller percentage change in the quantity demanded. So since any percentage change in price will just lead to a smaller percentage change in quantity demanded, then it implies that the Guinness company should increase their price to increase their total revenue. Because even if they increase the price, there will only be a small decrease in the quantity demanded, right? And definitely the total revenue will go high. So for them to make much revenue, they just need to increase the price because the demand is inelastic. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and I hope to see you again in my next video. Thank you.